We need to rip into these preliminary finals. Of course, they get underway on Friday night at Accor Stadium with the Penrith Panthers at $1.18 taking on the Melbourne Storm at $5. This gets underway at 7:50 p.m. The line -12.5 for the Panthers. You can find +13.5 for the Storm. Over 39.5, under 38.5. Really interesting game, but sort of not at the same time. It almost feels boring. And let's get the typical pathetic argument out of the way that I heard in Sydney media this week about Penrith. Phil, it's unfair that Penrith have to play at Accor Stadium and Brisbane get to play at Suncorp. Literally been that for 100 years of the rugby league. Finals are at Allianz Stadium or at Accor unless you're an interstate team. They're the rules. Suck it up.
Yeah, pretty much. If people are arguing that the Broncos shouldn't be able to play at Suncorp Stadium, then they're clearly yelling at clouds. That was a sellout by midweek, I'm pretty sure. My understanding is there are still seats available for this game at Accor, so it'll be interesting to see where that one settles. Obviously going to be way more, black, dark blue, chocolate brown, all the 50 shades of Penrith out there.
Pink.
The bright pink, of course, too. Yeah, maybe a little bit of purple, but probably not a hell of a lot. So the Panthers are going to enjoy, a pretty raucous atmosphere out at Homebush, you would think. And deservedly, they start as pretty hot favourites. That line, when I started this betting preview, would have been over 24 hours ago now, the line was sort of sitting around that 12.5 mark. It felt like it was going to head out to 13.5. I'm pretty sure that's where it will settle. The late mail is that Jerome Luai will be good to go.
That's come out in the last hour. He's good to go.
Sorry?
It's come out in the last hour that he is indeed good to go.
Yeah. I'm sure Jerome Hughes is going to play as well. They're going to take the risk. In my preview, I even made a sort of a comparison though to what the Cincinnati Bengals are dealing with right now, and Joe Burrow, who did his calf in training camp, and he was all good to go a couple of weeks before week one, got through week one, and then he twinged it at the back end of week two on the weekend. So those calf problems can linger, but the Storm just have to take the risk with Jerome Hughes at this point. I'm getting my Jeromes mixed up almost, but I've managed to plough forward so far. So, you can't get value on the Panthers at 13 plus, but you can take them. You could have taken them at the line -12.5 at better value yesterday. Work that one out.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, Panthers are deserving favourites. I think they've won 7 games in a row now where they've had the rest advantage, and obviously they've had a major rest advantage coming into this one, and they've been able to get a little bit healthier. Obviously, the Nathan Cleary situation was interesting. Hurting his finger at training this week. So, whether or not that's going to play any kind of impact in this one, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, he's going to play, but is he sort of worrying about how he's catching the ball and that kind of stuff? It can obviously impact grabbing in defence as well. We know the Storm are going to target Luai in defence. Do they maybe try and go at Cleary as well, just to see whether that's bothering him early in this one? We'll have to wait and see there. So yeah, look, there's a lot to sort of weigh up. A low over under 39.5.
Same as last week.
And if an over under is under 40, I'm probably just getting on the overs, because I think we know that the Panthers are going to hold up their end of the bargain in this one. It's just whether or not the Storm can muster up some points here and there as well. These sides only met back in round 23, and the Panthers dominated them 26 points to 6. That one was at Blue Bet Stadium, of course, so different venue, same city, and you're looking at a Panthers side that are just a lot fitter. Isaac Tungo, he's been in some doubt with a pec problem as well, but it looks like he'll start at left centre for the Panthers. So you look at this Penrith team on paper, and they've somehow, for the most part, managed to do this in both premiership seasons so far, and that's how it's setting up this year as well, where they're essentially at full strength on paper.
Yeah.
No, they're not at full strength because we've spoken about a couple of the players that are dealing with things, but every team's dealing with stuff this time of year. The Panthers' forward pack is entirely at full strength. The Panthers' backline is the full strength lineup that they started in round one and in the preseason, minus Tyron May, who, their left winger who did his ACL in the World Club Challenge, I believe. So, the Panthers are pretty much at full strength, and that gives me concern around the Storm competing in this game. They're going to win the battle through the middle, you would think. The Storm have been obviously limping in with their form. And, I just think the Panthers are going to be able to get on a roll. I think it's one of those games where, they get out to an early lead and then just blow them off the park in the last 15, 20 minutes. Sania Taruva strikes me as a good try-scoring option for the Panthers, the left winger. Off the back of a strong forward pack, I think it's going to be either Stephen Crichton or Brian Toto on the right scoring the opening try, or this kid Taruva. He's had a strong breakout year, and Penrith's starting left winger has scored at least one try in 10 straight games. So that bodes incredibly well for him out on that left wing as well, particularly with Tungor back in the team at left centre and Jerome Luai back in the team on the left side of the field as well. I like Dylan Edwards as an anytime try scoring option at $2.90. Given that this Penrith pack are probably going to win that battle through the middle, give their halves great go forward, lay that strong foundation. Dylan Edwards is going to pop up as a support player through the middle of the ground. Liam Martin's an interesting one at value as well. $3.35 on Top Sport for an anytime try-scoring bet. He's one of the best try-scoring edge forwards in the NRL, full stop. Up there with the likes of Britton Nikora and Hudson Young, the Sharks and Canberra players respectively. He scored a try in 4 straight games for Penrith. So I think those guys can all score in this one. And all you have to do is turn on the tape of Melbourne's game last week. They barely beat a Roosters team that basically listed a reserve grade level backline. It took some Will Warbrick magic at the end of that game then to get over the line. He's a good try-scoring bet for this one at $3 on Ladbrokes Will Warbrick. But look, I think the Panthers romp this one home and, they win something like 32-12 and it hits the overs as well. I'm tipping the Panthers minus 12.5 at $1.90, but it's morning here. I haven't gone back and checked where that's at. It might be 13.5 now, and I'm probably still taking the Panthers there as well.
Right now, it's minus 12.5 for the Panthers. But yeah, just as you said, Penrith just almost looks sort of too simple for them, as we sort of broke down on the Daily Show earlier this week between myself, Stats Guy, and James. It's like you almost see this being like a 20-6, a 24-12 win for Penrith, where it's never in doubt. They get a couple of tries up early and then they just sort of shut it down and just run it up the centre for the rest of the game. No injuries, no risks. And they just get through to the grand final and try and be as cherry up as possible, because the Storm, I want to give them a chance, but they struggled to beat the Roosters last week. And really, a couple of refereeing decisions did go their way leading to that win. So I'm just like, I can't see a way for them to win this game unless Penrith just have a horrendous day out and there's a bunch of injuries to already some sore bodies. Is it possible at all? Does Craig Bellamy have another trick left in him?
It is possible. We saw in round 26 where nothing went Penrith's way and Parramatta ended up just putting them to the sword.
Yep.
Different circumstances. Obviously, they were without a couple of players, and then they lost Jerome Luai at an important time in that game with that shoulder injury. It can happen. It happened 2 years ago in the preliminary final where the Melbourne Storm outfit were not only the favourites in that game against Penrith in the preliminary final, that was up at Suncorp Stadium in the COVID era, I believe. But on top of that, that Melbourne Storm outfit were historically one of the best rugby league teams we've ever seen. Yeah, yes, it was in the Volandis Ball era where, the point scoring was off its mind. But, Melbourne were the odds-on favourites to beat Penrith and go through to the grand final in that game. They were the best team all year. I think they won about 20 games in a row. And then Penrith just, outplayed them in that prelim. The Storm looked nervous. They were off their game. They were dropping lots of ball and nothing went right for them.
Yeah.
And Penrith got home in a pretty tight one in the end. So it can happen. I know we're going to be transitioning to the other prelim as well shortly as well. So I just get the feeling that one of these two games is not going to go according to script.
Yeah.
It's just a case of which one it will be. And that's kind of, as we'll get to, I'm sure I'm going to get one of my predictions wrong, but we have to kind of play each ball on its merits here. And I suppose the other thing is Penrith can win big finals in different ways. We've seen them win the tight ones. We've seen them blow teams off the park early as well. So what are we going to get here? We don't know for sure, but we think the Panthers are going to win by enough.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.